Hi friends! I'm so excited you're here today because I'll be talking about all the books I read in October. So sad. October is over. What the heck? So sad. But I had the best month ever. It was super fun. I was a co-host for Halloweekend Readathon, which was created by Lexi from Books with Lexi, and I had some awesome co-hosts, Kelsey from Slime & Slashers, Kaylee from Kaylee's Books, and Sav from Riveting Reads. And we actually did a meetup and we went to a Halloween haunt at Eastern State. I had an awesome freaking October. I hung out in some graveyards like a proper ghoul, did some apple picking, we went to a pumpkin patch, we did the farmer's market, we did all the things. Except I'm so mad at myself. I forgot our zombie walk here in Richmond, so I did miss the zombie walk, sadly, but what are you gonna do? So I was truly living in October, and now I'm dead again, which is fine because I'm spooky all year. But let's get right into it. What did I read for Halloweekend Readathon? I managed to finish all the prompts. I did have to switch up things a bit here and there, but I did read 10 books, which I'm happy about because I feel like Halloweekend is not, it's not all about the reading. I mean, there are a lot of reading sprints and stuff, but it's about hanging out with each other. Like we did Halloween events, which was so fun. That was actually one of my favorite things I did this October. I loved just, you know, hanging out and doing a Halloween activity with you guys for like an hour or so. Like it was so fun just being a little bit more casual and not like rushing to read or anything. But anyways, I'm happy I read the 10 books and I did keep track of the prompts in my journal spread. So I started out the month with Vampires of El Norte by Elizabeth Knaz. I read this for Match a Monster. I spun the wheel and got Vampire. I kind of knew what to expect going into this one because I read the Hacienda. I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed both of these, but they're not horror books. I feel like they're more historical books with like a little bit of a horror element in it, but this one was mostly romance, honestly, which I was kind of bored with, but it didn't bother me because, again, I kind of knew what I was getting into with this book. I did like the vampire stuff in this. It was subtle. It wasn't in there a lot, but it was really interesting concept of how the vampires were used in this. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book was Match a Host thumbnail, and for that I did one of Kelsey's thumbnails for her Carnival reading announcement, readathon announcement. What? And I did The Loop by Jeremy Robert Johnson. I was not a huge fan of this one. It was very weird, which I did like the weirdness in it, but the kids in this, oh my gosh, this isn't YA or anything, but it follows teenagers and they're horrible. They're just annoying, and it was so obnoxious. So I ended up giving it 2 stars. I really did not enjoy it. I pushed through this. And yeah, it was just really, really trippy too. So I can't even tell you like what really goes on. I think stuff starts happening in the town. It's like a big town thing. Something with radio waves or something. I just remember the kids being so obnoxious and like not enjoying it. The next book I ended up reading was Drencrom by Hamlin Bird. This is a new to me author, and I loved this so much. It is a little tiny novella. I highly suggest if you're into, I just said The Loop was trippy. This is trippy, but you know what's going on. It is like a psychedelic horror book, and it's about this woman who orders this drug online, and yeah, it's like 2 points of views of the dealer and the lady that, you know, trying to catch a buzz here and there. And some stuff goes down with this particular drug. It has like Brave New World, Clockwork Orange vibes. I think there's actual quotes from those 2 books in here. And yeah, I just loved it. And the ending is so good. I was shocked reading this ending. I was like, Oh my gosh. 5 stars. Amazing. And the next book I ended up reading was For Something New prompt, and that was Pumpkinheads by Faith Erin Hicks. And this is like a YA cozy graphic novel about these 2 kids that are working like their last year at a pumpkin patch during fall. I did like the little map in here of the actual pumpkin patch, and you actually go to like all these places for each chapter. I thought that was so fun. It's very cute. It's like very, very cozy, but it's like so they're best friends pretty much, these 2 kids. And I don't know. I just don't really like where this goes. I guess it was cute in this, but I was honestly kind of bored. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. And then I ended up reading Ghostland by Duncan Rawson. I always forget this last name. For Halloween word, I could not use my brain to make a Halloween word in any other title. I saw ghost and I was like, here we go. I had a blast with this one. It's on Audible, and there's actually a whole series to it. I just found the books 2 and 3 on KU, and I'm really interested in like actually reading the second book. So this is kind of like 13 Ghosts. It's about an amusement park where you go in and you wear glasses and you see ghosts, and you get their backstory and stuff, and it's done in like kind of an exploitative way. But yeah, we follow 2 friends that go in here with their psychiatrist, which I feel like is very unprofessional, to overcome like their traumas and stuff. And it's wild. It goes from 0 to 100, I feel like sometimes, which I really liked, but there's other parts where it did kind of drag for me. But overall, I absolutely loved it. I loved the lore of each ghost and like how gory and stuff it got. It reminded me a bit of like the 1999 House on Haunted Hill, which is like one of my favorite movies ever. I loved it as a kid. It's freaking great. And yeah, it has like those vibes to it too. And I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So then I ended up reading What Kind of Mother by Clave and Chloe Chapman for spooky cover. I think this cover is pretty spooky. It's like a crib with like beach in it. You know, it's a beach themed crib. You don't want to have crabs and dirt, sand in your crib, you know. You don't want that. This is, I guess this is a grief horror book. And it's about a fortune teller in Virginia Beach area, or no, Chesapeake Bay area. I should know that. And she's kind of down on her luck, and she's reading fortunes, and she sees something very weird when she reads the fortune of a guy whose child went missing 5 years previous. A baby went missing. This book gets so freaking weird. I'm not sure why certain decisions were made in this book, but I thought it was interesting. I liked the body horror in it, and yeah, just very weird. I would say this falls into creepy kid category as well, and I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I think it's more of like a 3.5 for me, and I'll round up to 4 stars. Definitely still love Ghost Eaters the most. I actually just met Clay again, and had him sign my remaking copy, but I did not get buy this one. But yeah, it was interesting. Interesting choices were made in this. And then I read Edeville by Sam Rebellion. I'm terrible with remembering authors' names, I've noticed. And I read this for Most Anticipated. This is a new release. And I actually read this too because I'm a co-host for Amy's book club, Amy Noel's book club, Dark Hearts. And we're talking about this in like a day or so. So when this goes up, the live show will be happening Wednesday, November 8th at 8 p.m. or 7:30 Eastern, I believe. So I'm not going to talk too much about it. I did end up giving it 3 stars. I felt like it needed a little bit more of a slow burn. And I never say that. I'm like, I wanted a little bit of stuff like happening like that was creepy before we get into like the why. And I felt like we're just thrown in to like, okay, this town, the sunflowers are freaking like following you or whatever. Okay, that's creepy. And then it's like just like bloop, it's like an info dump. So I was a bit disappointed with that, and I wasn't a huge fan of how the girlfriend was written in this. Very much like a man. I don't know like what some of the usage was like, why I'm not sure. So I definitely will have some stuff to say at the live show. I read The Thicket by Noelle Ely. This is host favorite trope. This takes place on Halloween, and this is exactly like a movie. I won't say the movie here. I do talk about it in my vlogs, which all the vlogs will be linked to down below. Yeah, this is about a serial killer that is at a Halloween haunt. And it is exactly like, it's exactly like 2 movies out there. So I wasn't too impressed by it, and I do feel like it took its sweet time getting to the point of things, which ended up being nothing. So not too impressed. I think I ended up giving it, I gave it 3 stars, but I think it's more of a 2.5, round up to 3. I did a reread of The Final Girl Support Group by Grady Hendrix. I did the audio this time. When it came out, I just read it physically, and I loved the audio. I think the audio like touched my heart. It like made me feel feelings with Adrienne King reading it. If you don't know, Adrienne King is the final girl from the OG Friday the 13th, and the way she read Lynette's character, like, I'm not gonna cry right now, but like, you could tell like she was so into it. There's a lot of heart in it, and vulnerability, I'm gonna be able to talk, that I feel like you don't get with just reading it physically. I know, I thought Lynette was, is it Lynette? It's Lynette. It's the main character in this. I got that she was really like hard, you know, and like kind of like a Jamie Lee Curtis character in the later Halloween, in the new Halloween movies. But there's like so much emotion, like just through the voice of these words. I guess I was reading things very differently when it came out. So that was like a huge shift of how I reread this book. I'm not a huge reader, but I'm so glad I did the audio, honestly. I do wish there was more creepy Kristine or whatever, creepy Chrissy in this, because she's the best. She's just insanity. I love it. But also I really like the main character a lot. There's also a bunch of foreshadowing in this that you don't get at the first read you get. So 5 stars. Fantastic. So good. I love it. I love it. And I read this for a friend loved, which I think Lauren and Kelsey really liked this book. And the final book I ended up reading was for actually my book club, but I made it work for a book that scares you, which every book club book honestly scares me. If you guys don't know, I run a book club over here called the Reaper Book Club, but it is on hiatus for 2 months, and we'll start back up in 2024. I feel like you always have this fear, like, if people are gonna hate it. I don't think anybody hated this one. I think they were just like 3 stars. There were aspects of this people did not like, but I will leave the live show in the description box down below. My co-host is Kristine from Secrets Reads, and I will link her channel down below as well, so you can go follow her. This is The Prettiest Girl in the Grave by Christopher Triana. I was like, what book did we read? So this book is about a game that teenage girls play in a graveyard, and a crypt opens up, and then they're playing a game. I'm not going to get too into it because it is 200 pages, but what it ends up being is, I wouldn't have guessed it, but it makes sense right from the start. I do think this is one of Christopher Triana's like most pretty books, like Prettiest Girl in the Grave. I feel like he took, he was like, I'm gonna write like really flowery sentences and stuff. There's some great lines in this, like beautiful imagery. I'm like, beautiful imagery. It's like horrific, but it's like, it's just so good. It's like very cinematic, I feel like. I did like this. I ended up giving it like 4 stars or 4.5 stars. And yeah, I liked how it all came together in the end. This is not extreme. This is just regular horror. But I mean, it's brutal during times. It is gory. It is a horror book. But yeah, I thought this would be perfect to read around Halloween, and I did. I read it on Halloween, and it was super fun. Those were all the books I ended up reading for Halloweekend Readathon. Again, I had so much fun being a co-host. I had fun reading these books, but I had more fun hanging out with you guys, honestly. And thank you, Lexi, for inviting me to be a co-host again this year, and I'm so excited for next year. Like, honestly, it's the best way to celebrate Halloween is Halloweekend Readathon. So getting into the other books I ended up reading, so during the week I was trying to focus on Blackoween books. Did it happen every week? No. But I think I started off with I Feed the Beast and The Beast Is Me. I listened to this one. This one definitely gave me Suspiria vibes. It's like a ballet school where it's more fantasy too. So like it's a ballet school where our main character ends up falling in, like, going into a catacomb area, and something happens. It's kind of like a Crossroads deal. I'm not gonna get too into it, but there are rules and stuff, like a fantasy book, and it's kind of like a known thing, which was kind of weird going into. This book, the pacing felt a bit off to me in it. It felt like, okay, stuff is happening, and this is interesting, and then it would just drag on. This is a YA book, so I'm not sure if that's why it felt like it dragged a bit for me, but I ended up giving it 3.5 stars, round up to 4. I do think if you're a fan of Suspiria, old or new, I think you will find something you'll like in this one, or just a fan of YA horror in general. I think you'll find something you'll like. And then I ended up listening to Nana by Brandon Massey. I cannot believe it took me so long to read Nana. I think I was saving it, like, for the perfect October day or something, because I listened to this in a day. The audio is unscripted. I do recommend the audio. It's really good. Oh boy, horny grandma much, right? You will say to your, this is like a typical horror movie, I feel like. This felt kind of like pulpy in a way. This could have been written in the freaking 80s, like what goes on in here, which was so fun and kind of refreshing. Very pulpy, and yeah, okay, why I said it was a horror movie is because the main characters in this end up doing like the stereotypical things you're not supposed to do, you know, like in a horror movie. Like, no, don't do that. What are you doing? Like, they basically invite a stranger into their house immediately. Like, no, like maybe get a email. I don't know. Like, don't do that. But yeah, basically this is about a woman who is a strange mother, comes back into the picture, and during a vulnerable time in this woman's life, and all hell breaks loose, let's just say that. But I had so much fun with it. It's a very short listen, and I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so I did end up reading like kind of a bunch of random books, I feel like. During October, I picked up Soichi by Jojito from my local library. They had it. I was like, yes, yes. I had so much fun with this. I was laughing during it. I felt creeped out during it. It had all of the things. So this book is about a boy named Soichi, and you know, he is kind of terrible, but you're like rooting for him. Let's just say that, because he's just so weird. I had a lot of fun with this one. I really liked the ending. I thought the ending was very clever, and I'm not going to get into it, but if you're a Jojito fan and you read other works, you'll really like it. But I gave this 5 stars. It's one of my favorite reads. I've already started to reread it before I have to return it because I just had so much fun. I made Alex read it. It was hilarious, and yeah. So much fun. Everybody read Soichi. Okay, so I ended up listening to Midnight is the Darkest Hour by Ashley Winstead as well. I don't really recommend the audiobook. The audiobook wasn't that great, but the story overall I really liked. I really liked the ending. And I liked the subject matter a lot in this. yeah, the audiobook is not great, but I actually like the romance in this, and I'm not a romance girly, but I was like, I don't even know what to call this type of romance, but I really liked it, and I was like, yay! So I ended up giving this one 5 stars. So the next book I ended up reading was Jawbone by Manako Ohara. I loved this. The writing is freaking gorgeous. Freaking fantastic writing. This reads like an A24 movie. It has body horror in it. It has all the things. It has a lot of commentary on horror itself, which I thought was really interesting. I actually loved those conversations. I think if you liked My Heart is a Chainsaw, you'll really like this one. Or not, because it is more literary than anything. But I really liked it. I liked the ending. I was like, oh shit. Oh shit. And yeah, it was fantastic. Without giving too much away about this one, it is about 2 girls who kidnap their teacher. Let's just keep it that way. But yeah, I'm so glad I finally read this, and honestly, I've seen like really mixed things about this book, but I'm so glad I finally read it. And I ended up reading Nestlings by Nate Cassidy. I actually got an arc of this one before it came out on Halloween, and then I just met him at an event. Well, I met him before, but I saw him again at an event, and I got this copy, and he signed it. And I told him how much I liked it, or actually loved it. I loved this book. This book is great. I feel like the last couple of books I'm talking about, I'm like, I freaking loved it. It was like amazing. Read them all. So this is set in New York City, and it is about a couple that move into like a really fancy apartment building called the Deptford, and because they won a lottery. And I don't know what else to say about it. I liked the characters a lot. But let's just say there's something going on in this building. It's like Rosemary's Baby meets the Gremlins. No, I'm just kidding. Not that. That's not a great app. Rosemary's Baby, yes. I do have a review up on my Instagram for this one. And I do talk about it. And I believe my last Halloweekend vlog, I really gush about this book. But look at how short it is. Like, I read so quickly. Like, even having it on my Kindle or something, I like read it. I read this in a day. I could not stop reading it. I loved the ending. The author's note, fantastic. I cried at the ending of this book. Like, there was some Mike Flanagan level, like, heartstrings being tugged in this book. And to do that and also be very scary in, like, this short a book, and it's fast-paced. Fantastic. Look up content warnings for this one. There's bugs. There's gaslighting. That kind of got to me. But yeah, fantastic. 5 stars. A million chef's kisses. I did end up reading Alice in Borderland Volume 1. I have watched season 1 of the show, some of season 2, but not the whole thing. But I just read this during the week, and it was like a fun little break from all of the other books I was reading. It is different at the beginning, and then it goes along with the show, which I thought was fun. I was like, oh, this is different. And yeah, I ended up giving this one, I think, did I rate it? I think I'm going to give it 4 stars. And then one of the last books I ended up reading in October was Children of Night by Dan Simmons. This is on my 23 and 23 for Paperbacks from Hell, and the audio is on script. So I went on a really long walk, and I listened to almost this whole book. It is long. Dan Simmons incorporates a lot of like historical stuff in his books. So you do get a whole backstory of like Romania, or yeah, Transylvania, Romania in this. There is a slur used in this a lot of the Romani people, and you're like, why? It's like a lot in it. So it definitely took me out of the story a lot, but this is a vampire story. I thought the beginning was done so well. The setup was great. The atmosphere, fantastic. It does drag, and the ending is so predictable, but honestly, it was fun to listen to, walking around, looking at Halloween decorations outside, and like this cover, fantastic. And yeah, I ended up giving it, I think, 3 stars or 3.5 stars. Yeah, the audio is really good, and yeah. So that is it. Those are all the books I ended up reading in October. so sad again. It is over. But, you know, I get to do it all again next year. I'm hoping to celebrate halfway to Halloween, to a little bit more this year. And, you know, I'm spooky all year, Halloween all year here. I'll just be quietly waiting, you know, surrounded by my Halloween decorations. Not being weird at all about it, but let me know what your favorite read of October was. What was your favorite thing that you ended up doing? And I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Bye!